And please, big round of applause to Idan Ofrat, co-founder and CTO of Fireblocks. Idan. Let me change microphones so I'll be the moderator.
All right.
Hey, Idan, how you doing?
Hey, Goldi.
All right, perfect. So, first of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for sponsoring and co-organizing this event as Fireblocks. I distinctly remember a conversation when I said, let's not co-organize this, let's just sponsor. And then you said, sure, why not? And then you decided we'll co-organize it. And then you just went on being a founder and we had to deal with that. So thank you. Yeah, that was a great conference, by the way. Thank you.
Sure. The deal was that you would be the one leading it and I'll be in the backstage.
So, for reals now, this is, if the people in the back could please come and join us, we're going to talk about product market fit. And for those of you who don't know, Fireblocks, which again, obviously I'm not objective because, this, but Fireblocks is now a company worth about $8 billion, or at least was valued like that in 2022. We'll come back to that and ask you if that's real. And we're probably the leading company in the space of providing wallets, custody, platform. I won't get too much into that because that's your role. And a lot of people ask me, Goldi, how much did they pay you to say this? No, a lot of people ask me, Goldi, how did Fireblocks found product market fit? And that's what we're going to talk about. How do you find product market fit? How do you become a unicorn in Israel against all odds? And so before we're going to dive into that, Idan, tell us your story. How did you get to this stage? How did you get to be part of Fireblocks? Is it true you had a startup that was about solar energy?
Sure. Do you want the long version or the short one?
Long version or short one?
Longer.
All right, longer-ish.
Longer-ish, okay. The short version is that I'm a geek.
Okay.
But the longer version is that I started basically getting exposed to all this space at not blockchain, but computer and coding at the age of 10. I started coding when I was 10. And basically for the last, now I'm going to expose pretty much my age, like for the last 30 years plus, this is what I've been doing. I was in the cyber command of the Israeli intelligence for a few years. Then I led the R&D and product in a cybersecurity startup that got acquired in 2011. And then a year later, someone called me. His name is Michael Sholov, which is now my co-founder. And he asked me if I want to join him as the CTO of his new startup. And I said no. And then 3 years later, he called me and told me that they got acquired for $100 million.
What were you doing in that time? Because I remember specifically you were doing offensive cyber in Africa.
No comment on that.
Okay.
I was doing basically what I decided to do. I did like most of my expertise basically is around cybersecurity, and then in 2012 I decided actually to shift to something else, which is as Goldi said, solar energy, and I founded a startup in the solar energy space, a consumer brand that the connection that it has actually to blockchain is that what we were trying to do is to decentralize the energy market. Now, back then, there wasn't anything yet that was blockchain-based to decentralize markets like the energy market. And our goal was basically to create this decentralized market where providers of solar energy basically sell to others in a very decentralized or distributed way energy to others. And to make a long story short, we shut down this business in 2016. And then what I figured out back then, when we just were kind of in the verge of closing the startup, is that actually the best way that we could have done it was through blockchain, as basically decentralizing the entire economy that we had around it. But it was already too late. And a year later, I read in the newspapers, like everyone else, that Bitcoin is a thing.
This is 2017, right?
This is 2017, and as I said, I'm coming from the cybersecurity space. One of my conclusions doing this journey with solar energy is that I better get back to my roots and do something that I understand better. And basically, I met Michael again, and he told me that he was actually looking at the same problem. It was a checkpoint. We met at a coffee shop, and then we talked about all the security issues that are in the blockchain space, and the rest is history. Basically, this is how we started Fireblocks, and I can elaborate on that, but please ask me more questions.
Yeah, so in 2017, by the way, when I started my crypto company, Michael, your dear co-founder and our CEO, he told me, hey, Goldi, I didn't know you became a scammer. And I was like, no, Michael, blockchain's real, right? And he was the checkpoint at the time. And then a year later, he also told me, guess what? I'm also starting a company in this space. And okay, it's now 2018. You thought about launching Fireblocks, but it's one of the toughest bear markets we've ever seen. Did that discourage you? How did you think about the product then? Did it change how you thought about the product?
Sure. So one of the main takeaways that I had for my last startup is that the first thing that you better do is a proper market validation. And basically what I told Michael, that before we raise any money, I want to interview as many firms in the space as possible. And basically this is what we did for a few months, day by day. We met, we had calls with firms across the space, exchanges, market makers, hedge funds, guys like Goldi that told us what his take on the market is. And I have to say that I was pretty skeptical back then myself. I didn't know whether it was just a kind of a scam-based market or there is going to be something real around it.
How many firms did you interview?
Over 50. I think it was between 50 to 100.
How do you get to 50 to 100 firms if you're just 3 folks out of Israel?
Yeah, so we used very extensively our network. We called investors. We called some people that we know in the industry. I assume, if I remember correctly, that some of them also came through you, right? And basically what I told Michael is that initially what we interviewed was just these very small hedge funds. And I told him, in order to really believe in this market, what I want is to interview or at least meet some more established firms. And then we had a trip to Switzerland. It was very interesting. This was April 2018. And we met some banks, really traditional banks. We sat at their offices. They didn't really understand anything around blockchain, but they told us their pain points and what they are facing or have been facing for the last 30 years with their infrastructure. Now, they didn't really make the connection between that and blockchain, but we realized that we have this new rail where basically every financial institution can eventually build on top of, and we do that it would probably take time. But I told Michael by the end of the trip, we went back on the airplane, I told him, let's go for it.
And you thought you were going to solve security? Is that the problem you're solving? And did that change over time? Do you still think you're solving for security?
So initially, yes. Initially, our entire pitch was around security. And as I said, the first thing that we did was to interview customers, like basically firms in the space, to understand what their problem is. And we found out that there is this very serious issue with security, of course, over $10 billion worth of cryptocurrencies. This is basically the estimate that was stolen from wallets. And while interviewing all these firms, we found out that actually just securing assets that are in custody and are not in motion is a pretty easy job. You don't need really to do anything sophisticated around it. The problem was, how do you move those funds around? Now, imagine you're in a market that the market was really in its peak in early 2018, and by the time we started interviewing those customers, the market started going down.
It's basically free falling in April.
Basically free falling from around 20,000, right?
Yeah, it's
dollars
eventually 3,200.
3,000. And basically, what it told us is it's very easy for us to hold this Bitcoin, but what happens when I need to sell it? Now, it might take 3 days for me to move it to some other wallet or to exchange or to an OTC desk, and I don't have this time because Bitcoin is free falling, I'm losing money, and I need a way to do it very securely, but also with operational efficiency, basically to do it in a very fast way. And what we figured out back then was that actually the problem is much larger than just security. And to be honest, personally, for me, it was very interesting because I didn't want to build a cybersecurity startup per se. I wanted to have something which is more on the infrastructure level. And this was really the best combination that we could have, because eventually what we built was much more than a wallet. It was an infrastructure that in its core was really a wallet, but it was more than that. It was around connectivity to exchanges and to other liquidity providers and to custodians and to other services. And eventually what we built was a platform, something which was really different from anything that anyone did before.
So you started with the idea of we're going to solve security. This was what Fireblocks was originally in your brain. And then you three started, you, Michael, and Pavel, you went on and talked to 50 to 100 different firms. And you've learned it's not just about security, it's about operational efficiency. You probably changed the product a bit, right? Now, at this point in time, after you interview so many clients, again, we're talking about product market fit. Are you creating now a product that fits the lowest common denominator, or are you solving use cases privately and then slowly you will have a generic product? What was your approach here?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you. You wrote that.
I did. We
Never mind. It's a different panel. This is like
the
the third
topic of
panel
the
doing
discussion. Yeah, I don't know. So I think that you need to be somewhere in between. Like we had this vision, we're a very broad vision, where eventually we want to be the infrastructure for every business, to enable every business, and this is our kind of our mission statement, to enable every business to support digital assets. But initially we wanted to just target one specific segment or one specific market, because you can't go with just a 5-people team to everyone. And
many people do that. Many people think they have understood what their company is supposed to do, what they're going to solve, and then they go and they attack all markets. You're saying you focused on one market.
Yeah, we focused on one market. So initially, the thought was, let's go for exchanges. And to be honest, what happened was that exchanges didn't really want to talk to us. Like we remember trying to reach out to some of the major exchanges in the space, and they basically didn't want to share their concerns. And the reason for that was actually what we found out, don't quote me, although it's recorded, that it looks like there is some kind of a correlation between the security issues that firms have and their unwillingness to talk to you. Basically, they don't want to reveal their security issues.
Yeah.
But they were the ones that really wanted us to help them, which was hedge funds, market makers, OTC desks, basically all the rest. And what we found out is that trading firms are the ones that are willing to cooperate with us more, and we're willing to also tell us what the requirements are, and basically also be our design partners and help us build the product.
So I'm focusing on this point. You said you thought you're going to have a great product for security in blockchain. You could have gone to a bank. One of them will tell you yes. Hedge exchanges, all the exchanges would tell you yes. But you decided, okay, I'm not going to spray and pray. I'm going to go specifically to the trading desks. And by the way, 37 out of the top 40 exchanges today run on Fireblocks. So, exchanges. But you decided to talk about those trading desks. And even within that space, did you think that didn't you have like fears that we wouldn't be big enough? Market's free falling. How will you? What is a product market fit if there's no market?
Right. So of course it was a concern to everyone. I think my message here is you need to really believe in a much broader vision. And our vision was as follows. We said, let's start with the ones that it's easier to start with, which was back then, this was our hypothesis. Let's start with hedge funds, OTC desks, market makers, then others will come. They eventually, it's a financial ecosystem. If we capture them, then we'll be able to capture also exchanges. If we capture exchanges, then we'll be able to capture the ones that they interact with, and so on and so on. It worked in a slightly different manner because what happened was that by the end of 2018, 80% of our design partners basically went out of business. So we started with hedge funds.
Just was bankrupt, went bankrupt.
Just went bankrupt, yeah. Just went bankrupt. We called them. I remember some of them just told us, we're not in the crypto space anymore. I started a new company in a completely different space. And but I just built a product for you. We built the product very, very fast. We did it in 5 months. We got to the market. This is kind of it's not my own approach, but I am a big believer in fail fast, basically fail very fast or succeed very fast. And we did it in 5 months. And it was December, as I said, 2018. We went back to them. And what we found out was something very interesting, that hedge funds, most of them, at least the ones that we wanted as our design partners, they went out of business. But larger OTC desks and market makers were still in the game. They actually wanted us our product more than ever because they said, okay, now we want to build our infrastructure for the next bull market. The market is going to recover soon, and we want to make sure that by the time the market recovers, we have an infrastructure that is able to support our scale and manage basically our treasury.
How did you raise money in a bear market when the price is free falling, you still don't have product market fit, 8 out of your 10 design partners went bankrupt, and you're almost about to launch your product? How did you raise money through that year?
Yeah, I can admit that when we just started, I was very arrogant in a way because I said, we are two entrepreneurs with experience. We're known in the Israeli market and also a bit globally. It will be very easy to raise money. By the time we wanted to start raising money, which was mid 2018, basically most of the VCs worldwide, here in Israel and also globally, didn't want to hear anything around crypto.
You were like radioactive company. Don't get near me, crypto.
Yeah, it was like, what is this scam? No, we're an infrastructure company that is going to build the future of finance. Is it crypto? No, and basically we had to adjust our story, and we made a lot of effort to refine our story and make it something that looks much bigger. To be honest, it didn't work for everyone. Still 99% of VCs and investors didn't want to get near us. But eventually remember that you don't need you don't need everyone. You just need this 1%. Eventually you don't need more than 1 or 2 investors that will be leading investors that will invest in your company. And eventually you also don't need a lot of money. You can start small.
Yeah.
We just had to hire these 5 engineers, and that's it. It worked.
What do you say? Okay, maybe we'll get back to that. But you say you don't need a lot of money. Today, if you're an entrepreneur in this space, it's unless you raise 8 to 10 million, you're nothing. But which is not true, right? You can do it with 1, 2, 3 million. But let's go to the product market fit discussion. We're now at the end of 2018. You're about to launch. You need to adapt because 80% of your design partners went bankrupt, right? And you're about to launch your product. You still really don't have product market fit. You have design partners who said they'll go with you, and you're about to launch. Now this is a story from behind the scenes, never published. It's not about you, so don't get embarrassed. It's so the CMO of the company comes to the board, and she says, we're not going to build a website. It's all going to be stealth. And the day of the launch, we'll unveil the website, and it's going to be request for access. And the board tells her, you're an idiot. This will never work. just for you to know if it doesn't work, we fire you. And then you launch that website. She says, fuck it. I think she's a pro. Whatever I do is good. Then you launch the website and you unveil the company with, I think, 5 design partners at that time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right? 5 design partners. What happened?
It was booming. Basically, in around, I think, 12 months, we already reached close to 100 customers in the space.
SaaS client, enterprise type clients.
Enterprise clients. We already reached millions of dollars in revenues. It was a hit. Basically,
why?
Yeah, the reason for that was 2 things. One is going back to the interviews that we did back in 2018, we did already, at least on paper, we got to product market fit, or at least to validation. And we didn't need to adjust our product a lot to support it for the type of clients that we had in 2019, which were mostly OTC desk and market makers. We had to do some small adjustments. We managed to do it, I think, in 2 or 3 months to go to this audience, ask them what the requirements are, and very quickly with a very small team. And I think that the key is actually a small team.
How many?
Because we were less than 10, I think, at that time.
10 people? You just launched the product?
We launched the product with 10 people.
After a year of work, right?
Yeah, we had me and Michael, the CEO, selling the product, around 8 engineers, I think, and our chief marketing officer, and everyone was hands-on. Like, basically, everyone was hands-on. I built part of the code, Michael as well. We dropped it later because it didn't look good. She built the website. We did it really, really lean, and it worked. Basically, we went to our customers. We visited them, like, physically. We went on airplanes to see how the product works. We adjusted it.
So product market fit didn't end when you launched it. It only started. Then you went to verify that. So you talk about that. You went on planes to meet your customers after you already launched. Why would you do that?
Right. There is this. It always feels like when you read these books around how to reach product market fit, where it looks like it's something kind of very binary, right? Very linear, right? You do market validation, then you have product market fit, then you are in the growth phase, and it looks like just
so easy, overnight
thing.
Success.
But yeah, like, you know, but it doesn't work this way. Eventually, you need to iterate through it all the time. Like, we even now, in some of the areas of the product, we haven't reached product market fit because we're building more and more features. You build more and more features over time, and you need to validate them, then you need to scale them, and so on. So it was a continuous process where endlessly, even until now, we need to always adjust the product. I think this is the kind of my next message here is that you don't just get to product market fit and just scale your product. You need to iterate through it and make sure that you do it very fast, especially in the crypto market, by the way, because in the crypto market, things change. I remember we had this slide from 2019. It didn't even have the word DeFi in it. Like, DeFi wasn't a thing, right? No one talked about DeFi. Then a year later, when you go to our strategy decks, you see DeFi everywhere. Like, you know, DeFi was kind of a thing. Then a year later, tokenization was a thing. In our strategy deck from 2019, I don't think we had the word Web3, right? And in 2021, everyone already started talking about Web3 and NFTs. So you need to adjust your product all the time.
So let's talk about PMF and competition, product market fit and competition. So when you started the company in 2018, there was already a huge dog in the house, right? BitGo was already dominating this market. Everyone was using BitGo. So why do you need to reinvent product market fit? Because BitGo already found it. No? Why? How is that different? And how do you compete with someone who already has product market fit and probably had like 80% of the market?
Right. So, just to be very honest, we didn't really do proper competitive analysis. I know that there is this saying, ignore the competition.
Ignorance is a bliss.
I didn't even know about BitGo when we just started.
Okay.
But, so
this is not a competitive session, it's a PMF session.
Yeah, we didn't even know about BitGo. But a few months later, when we went to customers, I'm putting like specific names aside, but they told us that they have a pain point. Like, I ignored the competition. I didn't care about whether there is competition or whether there is no competition. We were focused on customers. They told us, firms in the space told us that they had a pain point, and if they had a pain point, we had to solve it. Like it's is
So
easy
one
as
of
that.
No, I agree. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever read Nike's founder book. It's called I wanna say Shoe Dog Millionaire, but it sounds like a movie, right? It is. Thank you. So he says there that one of the things that he learned, because he was in a competitive state his entire life, but he was actually a runner, right, in college, and his coach always told him the best way to think about competition if you're in a running course is just never look at it. Don't ever look at your competitor. Don't look back. You will just trip and fall. Just run as hard and fast as you can, and if you'll be good enough, you'll just win, right? So I guess you did that, but you just didn't even know you can look back, right? So okay, fine. So
It was all intentional.
okay, so back to product market fit with competition, and now you know about BitGo, and now did that change your product? Do you think now you need to imitate the big dogs features, or did you say, okay, I don't care, this is what we think we should solve?
No, we really didn't care. Like, we just went to customers, we mapped all the requirements they had, and of course, we wanted to look around, see what already exists, learn from any technology that exists on the market, but it wasn't really a thing. I mean, as I said, like, it was just really mapping the requirements, building, not a product yet, right? Like, building these mock-ups and validating with the customers, and then just building it. That was really as simple as that.
So 18 months after launch, you have 100 clients. And at that time, I think the year is probably beginning of 2020, right? COVID's about to hit. And now we're not talking about product market fit for 5 seconds, but COVID's about to hit. And then you're still growing, but now I guess a bit slowly, but then COVID hits. And then suddenly everyone thinks the world's going to end. And what do your investors tell you? Because you're now starting actually to gain more traction. What are your investors tell you at COVID?
Right. So, like any other investor, probably back in, when was it? 2020, right? March 2020. Our investors had this mail that they sent to all their portfolio companies, and they told us there is going to be a very hard period now for the next probably 18 to 24 months. You need to start thinking about downsizing the company, being more lean, and blah, blah, blah. And they also told us, move everyone back home because you don't need offices. And I told him, pardon my French, fuck no, we're going to work from the office because this is the way we work. And also, we didn't know back then how it's going to play out. But apparently, one of the decisions that we made back in 2018 was to become a SaaS platform. We look at basically most of the products in the market back then, and most of them were kind of on-premise or hardware wallets. And I said, no, I'm going to build a SaaS platform because this is the best way to scale. And it proved itself mostly during COVID days because a lot of the ones that we actually on the market that we didn't manage to capture in 2018, 2019 were ones that during COVID days, as opposed to us, they did have to go and work from home, basically remotely. And they said all this on-prem system that we've built for the last 2 years is now unusable and we need to move to a SaaS product.
Right.
And
so the lesson learned here is obviously if there's a word plague that kills most of the population, develop a SaaS company because on-prem wouldn't work, right? So you're in the midst of great product market fit, 100 clients, VC, COVID hits, VCs tell you fire 20% of the workforce, if I remember correctly, or 30, whatever, push everyone home. You tell them, fuck no, even though they say in the next 18 to 24 months you're going to suffer. What happened 18 to 24 months afterwards?
So I think it was even less than that. In 12 months, we managed to scale from 100 customers to 1,000 customers, basically 10x in just 1 year. So they didn't really have time. Like, it's not like we had time to analyze it. Like they basically on a weekly basis, we told them, look guys, like, we just onboarded 50 more customers. We now onboarded 40 more customers from week to week. and they couldn't really have a say against that, right? And say, no, you need to
Move everyone home.
You need to move everyone over. You need to downsize the company. Actually, very shortly afterwards, I think it was in May or June, actually there was a consensus in the board and in the management of the company that actually the best thing that we could do now is actually scale as fast as possible and basically move into a hyper growth mode where we need to onboard more and more employees on the customer success side, on the sales side, and so on, and basically scale the company.
So that is the point where you want to reach as product market fit, right? You want to reach that point where you say, I have this, now I can call my VCs, we're doing another round, and we're going to scale the shit out of this. And I want to get back to that point to hear about like maybe the arguments on the board against scaling or not, but I want to go back to pricing before this. Like when you started, did you consider different pricing options as part of the product market fit, or did you know I'm going to go to this because it will help me slash my competitor?
Yeah, at the beginning, we had this pricing which we call lobby pricing. Basically, lobby pricing is with your first customers, you don't really know how to price your product. So lobby pricing is basically sit with your customers at the lobby, like, just hypothetically, and come up with some pricing that makes sense. So initially, the pricing was mostly fixed because I remember our first customers, we went to their CFO and they told us we want something more predictable. So we tell them, okay, there is going to be an upfront commitment that you make, and then all the overage on top of it is going to be very predictable, and we're going to make sure that you can't cross all the limits that you set in the product, and so on. But over time, what we found out is actually we need different levels of pricing, and some customers prefer to have more upfront commitment, while others, which I think is very common for SaaS platforms, they actually want the variable pricing and want something which is more usage-based. So over time, we moved to this pricing model, which is kind of in between or different flavors of pricing.
Is that part of product market fit in your eyes? The pricing, does that affect if the client will choose this or not?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's what I call a pricing market fit.
But the value is derived from the product. So how is that part of that? I would love if you explain that.
Yeah, it's part of it. But eventually, when customers want to buy your product, they don't just look at what you have to offer them, but they look at what's called value metrics or pricing metrics. Eventually, you want to make sure that the value that you give them is actually reflected in the pricing, right? You can't buy something like it's not binary. It's not like I want this product and that's it. They want to make sure that the price that they pay for the product or the value metrics that are reflected in pricing actually fit the value that they see in the product. So, yeah.
So now I don't know if they're giving me the lights. Is that we're out of time? No, we have time. So so now you grew to this big company, 640 employees, 1,800 clients. Amazing, good work. I'll join. Fine, but you're now launching new products. Are you taking insights from that PMF process and putting it now, or did you forget all about this and now you feel like Microsoft, whatever I'll do will work?
I totally forgot about it already. No, just kidding. No, as I said, we implement it in every product that we launch. Like even now, when we launch new products, we still go through the same process. Start it very, very lean. Test it with a few customers. We have this beta phase or early access phase where we just experiment with a few customers, check pricing, and then we scale it. Like it's, as I said, it's a never-ending process.
So we had sessions here today on psychology. And I have to ask you, I know you have 3 kids, at least one of them, or if not 2, were born during Fireblocks' period.
During COVID days.
During COVID days, which is the worst time to have kids, by the way. But, okay, how did you manage this product market fit, ups, down, 2 bear markets in psychology as an entrepreneur? I know you're crazy, so I wouldn't say you managed it, but how are you still alive?
I'm not sure that I manage it.
Yeah,
maybe I mismanage it. Yeah, you should ask my wife. Like she's my partner in the other side of my life. It's challenging. I can tell you to all entrepreneurs. eventually it's just around time management. If you manage your time right, you'll be able to spend time with your kids, with your family, with your friends, and still have time to do your startup. It's very challenging. You need to be a bit crazy to do that, but it works.
Okay, Idan, this was fascinating. I want to ask if the audience has any questions about product market fit, about Idan's personal life, about, how much money did he take home at secondaries. You can ask anything. It's all good. Yes, secondaries. Oh, you're going to do the runner? Wow, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eyal, right?
Michael.
Shit. Hi, Michael.
I do.
Hi, Michael.
I'm not asking about personal life, but what methodology or what approach you used when you interviewed those first 50 customers, potential customers, prospects?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question, because there is always this tension. You don't want to go to customers or to potential customers, right, to prospects, and tell them, I don't have any idea. I now just want to interview you, right? Like you need to come up with something. And what we did was to start with some more friendly firms in the space that we had a personal connection to, and we started the validation with them. And back then it was like really from scratch. We didn't really know what to solve. We started with those, I think, between 3 to 5 customers. Then the next iteration was to come to the next 20 or 30 customers or firms in the space and come already with an idea. So we came to them with some more concrete ideas, with some mock-up, because you can't just knock on their door and tell them, I don't have anything to offer you. You need to offer them something. So we did that, and then we did it as a very gradual process. As I said, we started with 3, 5. They really didn't know what, we didn't have any clue on what to offer them. Then we started building this concept and told them, yeah, we're just building this stuff. And at some point we went to customers and we told, like, we're building it. It's going to be available soon, because there are some that you can just go to them and tell them, yeah, I don't have anything to offer you. I don't know what the time offer that is, and you need to be more concrete. So it was really kind of a more gradual process.
So the approach wasn't, here's my solution, give me your feedback. The approach was, doesn't matter what do I have, tell me about your biggest problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell you, the amount of slides and mockups that I did between 2018 to 2019 was crazy. Michael, my co-founder, always laughs at me that it doesn't make sense that I didn't get hit by the rate limit of Google Slides by now. And even with Goldi's team, I remember coming to your offices once, maybe every 2 weeks, and coming with a new concept.
All your concept.
What do you think about that? What do you think about this? Now, you can do that only with very friendly, partners or customers, but for most of them, you need to come with something which is more concrete. This is what I want to build, but I want your feedback, and then you can just adjust it a bit.
Okay. Tal Chwala from Solana is probably one of the best product market fit people in the world. Tal, I know you didn't want to work at Fireblocks and you went to work for Solana. It's all right, none taken. But what is, I guess, your question to Idan from Fireblocks, either about product market fit or whatever? Thanks for putting me on the spot.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I guess as we move more to multi-chain world and bridges kind of emerging as a way to connect those chains, what do you think is the future of now these app-specific chains, the infrastructure that's supposed to be built around it? Are bridges the real solution to it? Is it going to be ECDSA that wins for key generation and that's the future? Like, how is this going to look like, and what's the role of Fireblocks in all of this?
Wow, almost regretting this. Okay, ECDSA or not, Idan.
Yeah, I don't want to predict the future and share it here with everyone.
No, that's a good question.
Yeah, but that's a great question.
High level, what do you think? Bridges, yes, no.
At least over the next 2 to 5 years, or between now to the next 5 years, I think there are going to be a lot of app chains, right? Chains that are going to be more dedicated to specific use cases. in the long run, I think that there might be some convergence eventually. There might be more kind of less protocols and less chains, and everything will run on kind of the same chain. I think that it's very similar to what happened basically in the history of the internet, right? Like, when it just started, I'm old enough to remember that, there was other alternative, like there were alternatives to HTTP, right? Like, to web, like Gopher and stuff like that. And before TCP/IP emerged, there were ones that were based on novel networks and all sorts of protocols, and they lived together side by side. But I think eventually, over time, there will be some convergence. There will be less and less protocols. Fireblocks, you asked what the Fireblocks role is. The Fireblocks role is eventually to support whatever is popular and whatever is requested by the industry. I think nowadays Fireblocks role is more than that. It's also to take a more proactive approach, and this is what we're taking. Basically, we partner, as you know, with a lot of foundations to figure out what the use cases that are specific or more suitable for those protocols or for those networks, and collaborate with them to actually go to the market and offer it as kind of a bundle and something that we do together to create more adoption for specific use cases.
Idan, thank you so much. Big round
you.
of applause
Thanks,
to
Goldi.
Idan Ofrat from Fireblocks.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Obviously, I will request a bonus for this.